For more, I'm joined by our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Hello to you.
I will.
Doug, this election is going to be closely watched in Brussels, but also Budapest and Rome. What's at stake for Europe?
The influence and the political power, the electoral support of far-right parties, right-wing to far right. Now, they have varying degrees of influence across Europe. The one common denominator here is it seems from where we stand today here in France, wherever you look on the horizon in Europe, across the political landscape, the far right to varying degrees is rampant. I literally mean that. France, Italy, Greece, Austria, Finland, Belgium, UK, Netherlands. You're like, are you ever going to stop this list? I can go on and on. Hungary, Poland, to varying degrees, the far right in recent years, not even that recent, going back maybe even to the 80s, about 30 years, it has moved from the fringe of the political landscape, sometimes laughing stops, sometimes parties that just sort of disappeared into oblivion, you didn't really pay them much attention, to parties that are now dominant in their own right, parties that are prominent in parliament. Here in France, Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party is now the biggest opposition party in parliament. 88 of the 577 seats in parliament. Sure, she lost the presidential election to Macron, but not by much, and she's all over the political landscape. Look to Italy, Giorgia Meloni's party, the Brothers of Italy party, descendants, that party, of a fascist party, a World War II-era fascist party. So wherever you look, literally, the Nordic countries right now, Sweden's Democratic Party, also in sort of very rampant on that landscape there and exerting their influence over Sweden's politics. Needless to say, the Fidesz party of Viktor Orban in Hungary. We're constantly talking about the far right. We have come a long, long way, Will, since the days almost 30 years ago when you might remember the name Jörg Haider. He was the Austrian leader of the so-called far-right Freedom Party. He entered government. We were talking about it for weeks and months. It was a political earthquake in Europe. Today, people barely blink when a far-right party makes it into power. Even in the past couple of weeks in Greece, you've had 3 far-right/nativist parties making big waves on the political landscape. Have we even discussed it? We haven't even talked about it. You don't blink anymore. So, here in France, right, back in 2002, right, when all of a sudden you had the far-right party of Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, making it into the runoff election against Jacques Chirac, and Jacques Chirac wouldn't even debate him. It was so disdainful. It created political shockwaves across Europe. Don't even blink today. So when you talk about the far right in Europe, you talk about it as literally right now, the way Pedro Sanchez in Spain is talking about it, as a contest between democracy and autocracy. That might sound like an exaggeration, hyperbole, but that's the way a lot of people see it right now. It's no longer on the fringe. It's in the mainstream.
Being normalized, so to speak. Doug, that's sort of the big picture.
Yeah.
Looking at
Very
Sunday's
big
vote, looking at Sunday's vote, what makes this election unusual?
Unusual, first of all, is that we have had 4 years of left-wing government in Spain under the socialist leadership of Pedro Sanchez. Pedro Sanchez is the one who called this election. This is what's unusual about it, because the socialists performed so poorly, abysmally, in local elections back in May. So a rolling of the dice here. Now, who's he rolling it against? The good news here is no. The far right itself is not poised to come to power in Spain, okay? The country has a very firm tradition of fighting off far right, of fighting off fascists. The Franco's government, back in the 1970s. Remember, democracy only came to Spain in the mid 70s. What could happen, though, and the fears in Spain are that the conservative rival to Pedro Sanchez, the Popular Party candidate, the right-wing candidate, not the far right, popular enough, leading in the polls, seen as possibly winning. He would not be able to rule on his own. The fear then being that he would form a coalition with the far-right Vox party, a party that denies climate change, doesn't believe in climate change, bashes what it calls gender ideology, LGBTQ rights, gay marriage, adoption by gay couples, so on and so forth, right down the line. Get tough on migrants, ban them from the islands off of Spain, Ceuta, Melilla. You know the policies of the far right. So the fear is that they would link up with Vox to form this coalition. Remember, Vox far right, this isn't a totally implausible, far-fetched scenario, Will. They have made power-sharing deals with regional governments in several regions of Spain, at least 3 right now. So it's something that's plausible. It's possible. Now, The Popular Party leader, the conservative leader facing off against Sanchez here, he's no fan of Vox. He doesn't really want to form a coalition with Vox. But a lot of people in that party have said similar words in the past. And then when push came to shove and it came to power or no power, if it meant having Vox on your side or not, they've often opted to go with Vox. That's the fear in Spain. So when Pedro Sanchez says this is an election in the form of a Joe Biden versus Donald Trump that Spain's having, democracy versus autocracy, some will say, oh, come on, you're exaggerating. It's not really that dire right yet in Spain. That might be true, but the very prospect of a party like Vox having already come to the political stage in several regional elections in power sharing deals, the fact that it's on the national stage now and it is there sort of skirmishing for power and jockeying for position, that is striking fear into the hearts of a lot of people who want nothing to do with the far right in Spanish politics or anywhere really in European politics.
All right, Doug, thank you very much. Douglas Herbert, France 24's international affairs commentator.